tell people that changed my life because for some reason it started to be a call inside of me that I wanted to look into the problem of hunger here in Northeast Ohio, and I wanted to do something about it. I went back to Joyce at the Emergency Assistance Center, and one of the things that I had seen in this film was what's called a backpack program. Backpack program, it's kind of a misnomer here in Twinsburg the way we're doing it, but what it is that kids that come from food insecure homes, that's the buzzword for not knowing exactly where their next meal is going to be coming from, will get a package of food on Friday afternoons to take home to supplement them through the weekend. The idea is that they get adequate nutrition over the weekend. When they come back to class on Monday morning, the teacher does not have to fight for that child's attention against a grumbling stomach that may have been undernourished and underfed. The program that I saw in this film seemed to be working pretty well, and I thought, well, I'm going to investigate hunger here in Twinsburg and see maybe there's a need for it here. So I went to Lynn Villa, and I have 2 kids in the system. My daughter is at Dodge, my son is at Wilcox, and I went and talked to Miss Villa, and Mrs. Villa, and she told me that Wilcox was actually running about 18.3% of all the children, all the students there that were receiving free and reduced lunch. That was the way that we decided we'd identify who might be in need of some additional assistance. And I asked her, well, what did she think about the backpack program? And she said, well, I think that would be just an excellent idea. So I went back to Joyce at the Emergency Assistance Center, and I talked to her, and then we called Kathy Powers, and we started having meetings at the beginning of last summer. We met with Lynn Villa, Mark Bindus, who's the food service director, Mrs. Powers, of course, and Danny Bucknell from the Wilcox PTA, and started talking about what the feasibility of this backpack program might be here in town. I got to tell him a story. A little girl came to my daughter's birthday party and walked in through the door, and all the other little girls went off to go do the princess thing that they were going to do for this birthday party. This little girl didn't go with the other little girls. As soon as she saw that we had food out on the counter, she went over to the food and started feeding herself. And I didn't recognize it for what it was at the time. It was hunger. And she couldn't do anything but focus on that. I knew we had a mission that we needed to accomplish. And talking to Mrs. Powers, talking to Mr. Bindus, and all of the rest of the school staff, I realized, yeah, there is hunger here in Twinsburg. Let's do something about it. I want to share with you that on the second meeting, Mrs. Villa showed up and she presented the Emergency Assistance Center with a check for $1,700 that was collected from the teachers and staff at Wilcox School. They know something. And I also want to take this advantage right now to share with all of you that I am so incredibly proud of the school system and the enthusiasm that we have seen from them right from the beginning. Everybody has been on board with this. Everybody has been enthusiastic, and if you go to Wilcox School on Wednesday afternoons when they are packing the bags for Friday distribution, you can feel the energy in the air. Everybody knows that there's a good thing that's happening here in Twinsburg, and especially Mark Bindus. I'd like to applaud him as well because he went out and sourced the food, and we went from an expected price of about $7 per child per week down to about $2.50. We right now have 50 kids at the Wilcox School, and we wanted to start at Wilcox because those are our youngest tigers, and the younger they are, the more important adequate nutrition is for them. We also wanted to start small because we figured we'd never done this before. We're going to run into some logistical problems. Fortunately, everything is going quite well. We are hoping that we're going to roll it out at Bissell next year, and from what I'm being told, we expect our numbers to triple once we roll it out to Bissell. And then I would hope to Dodge and so forth and so on. The average in this town is about 1 in 5 children at some point is wrestling with hunger. We all know what a great place it is, the library, the fitness center, the green space we have here. I think that just because you can't see it, well, I want to make Twinsburg even more special. And that's why I bring to you tonight nothing in particular that I'm asking from anybody, but I want you all to be aware of what we're trying to do, because I think ideally this becomes an endeavor that has to be shared by the business community, by the government, by the schools, by the faith-based churches and synagogues and mosques and whatnot, working together, we can end hunger in this town. We are currently looking into grants. We're also looking at the possibility of starting a summer feeding program. A lot of these kids are going home to empty houses and apartments in the summertime with not enough food. We're going to try and change that too. If you'll give me a moment, I'm going to distribute some of the literature, and one of the other things that we came up with. You will start seeing some of these around town, I hope. These are like Euro magnets. They're had about 500 of these made up, and when someone comes in, what we call them adopting a kid for a month, it costs about $15 a month to support a Children in the Backpack program, and anybody that does that, we're giving them one of these Euro stickers, and they can put it on their car and show everybody that they're supporting the Pause on Hunger program. I have one of each, or one for each one of you, just as a thank you for your time tonight. I would also invite you to visit the Emergency Assistance Center anytime, and we prefer that you just drop in on us. Don't make an appointment, because we want you to come in and see how it really is. No dog and pony show. You're allowed to come in, take a look at the books, take a look at the way it's laid out and the way things are going. It is an incredibly well-run organization, and it's making this possible. And again, with your help, we're going to end hunger in Twinsburg, and I thank you so much for your time. If there are any questions, I am more than happy. Very good.
Wow.
In this packet is a description of the Pause program and the magnet, and a brochure about TIAC.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, everybody.
Again, I thank all of you. This truly is something I want to see moving forward, and I do appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming in and sharing.
I just wanted to make a comment. I have visited the Emergency Assistance Center and toured it, and it's an amazing place, and spent part of my summer working through a program with lining up businesses for their donations program. It's a great resource for our community.
Yeah, we're very, very lucky.
Yeah, I've known Steen for a couple years now, and I know that this is something that he works hard at. I know he spends a lot of time running kids around, running his businesses, but I just commend him for taking the time to help this organization and you know, the different programs that you guys have going. It's great that we've got residents here that, you know, see that calling and actually do something. It's great.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have audience participation. Shannon, did anyone sign up today?
No.
Okay, we
There
have
is
no
none.
participation. We'll move on to council communication and committee reports. Mr. Yates?
Yes, the Planning Commission met last evening, and there was a few items on the agenda. One was a lot split consolidation. This is for a property that is in the is part of outlots at Giant Eagle. They're switching some lot lines around. I guess there were some issues with parking and some of the cross easements, but those were all resolved, and that was passed 4-0. A representative from the Corbett's Farm Development also came in, and there's a lot line that was proposed. They were shifting it slightly, I guess, in the original site plan. This one particular lot got overlooked in terms of its ability to accommodate all of their models. So it was just a very slight modification of a lot line that went through Planning Commission. It was approved so that basically they can offer all of their model homes in that development on all their lots. The last issue that was discussed was the comprehensive plan, and then there was a motion recommending that comprehensive plan to now come in front of council. The next meeting for Planning Commission is April 28th. I believe there is items on that agenda, but however, as with Planning Commission, just watch if you're planning on attending that, because if something happens with the applications or there is nothing, they will cancel that meeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Rhodes?
I was not able to go to Twins Festival, Twins Day meeting, so Mr. Sorese will talk about that. And I believe that we have a meeting coming up this Thursday for the Environmental Commission. So that is all I have for this evening.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Scafidi?
Thank you. Good evening. The Board of Zoning Appeals met on March 26th, and at that meeting, our planning director, Larry Finch, presented 10 variances to the board with regards to Phase 1 of the Route 91 project between Glenwood and Post Road. 7 of those variances he was looking for approval, and 3 of those he presented to the board just as informational at this point. The reason that he came for these variances is then so he could proceed with right-of-way negotiation and purchases for that project. As Amy discussed with us earlier this evening, Phase 2, and I think we're all pretty well abreast of what Phase 1 is all about. So that being said, the board unanimously approved, I'm just going to number them, items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9. They approved unanimously the variances, granted those variances, and then 7, 8, and 10 will be brought back to the board for discussion at a later date. Amy, I don't know, do we need to waive a 30-day waiting period on these? We're okay? We're okay. Okay. So that's what happened at the Board of Zoning Appeals. Earlier this evening, under Public Works, we did have a Public Works meeting. Again, the engineer Amy Moore spoke with us, and again, she discussed briefly Phase 1, and then we went into Phase 2, and she kind of went over what the project is, and we've it's kind of been on the back burner, and she's getting to a point now that council needs to discuss this phase of the project again, which would be Glenwood to the Solon border, and so we need to revisit that again as a council and get back to the engineer as to what our wishes would be if we're going to go forward and what it's going to look like if we do go forward. So we will be discussing that. I believe we're going to put on the agenda for the next caucus meeting at our next council meeting in 2 weeks. So we'll be discussing it there, and then we'll give the engineer a recommendation. We also discussed Serene Court in Ward 1. In that project, she had some communication with the contractor. Nobody likes to give out dates because sometimes that becomes a little difficult. You throw out a date there and everybody expects it to happen. But tentatively, they're looking at wrapping everything up there by the end of this month. So for those residents over there in Serene Belmeadow area, hopefully that's all going to be done all the way through to the soil and seeding of all the properties. Belmeadow Drive, I kind of brought that up. We've got some bad areas there on Belmeadow in the Glenwood Preserve area, and then again on the other end from Glenwood Drive in, and thankfully that is on the road program this year. So Belmeadow portions will be repaved this year or repaired this year from Ravenna Road in through to around the Deerfield Court and Dayflower area, and then it's not going to go all the way though, so that middle section that's still in decent shape is going to be left alone, but then they're going to come in from the Glenwood side and work their way in a little bit through the roughest areas there. So that'll be on the road program. Other than that, that's what we discussed on Public Works. And give me 1 second, what else do I have?
Chamber?
Nope, I have nothing else. Okay, that's it on my committees, and that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Okay, my committee was Public Works, and Mr. Scafidi just gave that. I have no other report. You were. I did have a question for Mr. Noble on the, is there a place where people can donate to your cause? I was looking through the literature, and is this appropriate?
They go to the website, they have a PayPal account that they designate that it goes to the Cause and Hunger program.
Okay.
They go to
tcenter.org.
tcenter.org. It's on that brochure.
Okay.
They'll find a place where they can donate. They can donate specifically to it.
Okay.
Not looking for food donations at this point because Mr. Finch has done such a great job of sourcing.
Right, that was my next question. So food, monetary donations only. Okay, thank you. I apologize for not asking that sooner. And that's all I have. Mr. Sorese?
Thank you. The Charter Review Commission met last evening, and they have adopted 4 different recommendations that will be coming before council when they conclude their work. These are changes regarding, one is regarding notifications, which have been required to be in the paper. They're going to also add that could possibly be put out electronically. One recommendation is the zoning of annexed land, the clarification actually of 7A01, which has been a problem source for us in the past because it can be interpreted depending on how people interpret it. It could be interpreted different ways. So there's some clarification there. The third one was regarding powers of the mayor. And the fourth one was regarding the vacancy of the office of mayor. There will be other issues coming forward, but these 4 have been adopted unanimously and will come forward at the end of the charter reviews time. We should have them around June, I'm guessing.
Mr. Sorese, was there anything in particular with regards to the powers of the mayor?
One of the main thing was we didn't stipulate in the charter that the mayor was the safety director, so that was one of the changes. Mr. Maestros, I don't think it was anything major. It was that kind of thing, just clarifying some stuff.
And the only other thing that we cleared up was that the mayor shall appoint all directors. While it was in there, it had some strange language to it, and we just made that clear.
So it's more housekeeping in that section of the,
In that it was, because there is reference that the mayor is a safety director, but it didn't say that in the powers of the mayor, so we specifically laid that out.
okay,
And a lot of people don't know that, so
Right.
they added that to the charter.
okay, thank you.
Sure. And as I said, there'll be more coming, and we should be done. Actually, we're going at a pretty good pace, so we're hoping to be finished in May, and then we'll have information in front of us in time to get it on the November ballot. The Twins Day Committee met last Wednesday and reported they have around 300 twin registrations already, and we spent about 2 hours talking about a lot of organizational things, like there will be some changes in how we conduct the parade and just some other logistical stuff regarding the event, working on designs for shirts and so forth, and scheduling of all the entertainment. As you can well imagine, a big project like that takes several people, and each person has their own committee and has to go out and do the work, in terms of scheduling or designing or whatever it might be, and then we come together and they report, and we vote on what direction to go. So everything is falling in line and looking good for this year's festival. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McDermott?
Yes, thank you. The Architectural Review Board met April 3rd. There were 4 items on its agenda. The first was at 3063 Killingsworth Lane. It was a pavilion by Leisure Spaces Incorporated, and it was approved as submitted. The next item was 9044 Church Street, signage by ES Sign Group. And there were 2 signs, a planter sign and a wall sign. They were approved as noted. However, they are going to have to return again because we couldn't determine the setback. Somehow the setback says it's 28 feet, and we can't figure where the center of the road is. So that has to be resolved before they can get a variance to put their signs up. Next item is 8027 Darrell Road, Havana's Choice Cigars. It was a non-illuminated planter sign, and it was approved as noted. And lastly, 9897 Crestwood Drive, patio cover by Fabrication Group, and it was approved as submitted. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen?
Yes, I'd like to do a report on behalf of Bill Fury since he's not here. He asked me to give a report regarding the Tax Incentive Review Committee that took place last Thursday on April 3rd. It was here in council, I believe council chambers or the jury room. Anyway, based on the report, we had a total of 7 CRA agreements that was before the Tax Incentive Review Committee, of which they were FFR, Celico, University Hospital, SIA, Ganshorn, Richner Associates, and VStar. All of those were approved to continue the CRA agreement. They have been performing above what our expectations were. And so as a result, all the committees, the Tax Incentive Review, agreed to continue on with the CRA agreements for them. Also, what was before review for the TOPS agreement, and those fell under, again, FFR, Celico, Windstream, American Bottle, Metallic Resource, Cleveland Metal Exchange, Lindia Corporation, Print Management Partners, and SMC Design Dynamics. Again, all of them did meet the requirements to continue on with the TOPS program, and all the Tax Incentive Review Committee agreed to continue on. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Mayor's report? No, Mayor. David, you have a report?
I can just indicate, I don't know if council had an opportunity to hear from the mayor. I did hear back from the mayor. She was running late coming back today, but she didn't provide a report to give. So.
Okay. Any of the department heads? Okay. Chief?
Good evening. During the month of March, the City of Twinsburg Communications Center generated 2,469 calls for service among the Twinsburg Police and Fire Departments and the Reminderville Police and Fire Departments. The total call count for the year is 7,003. Twinsburg police officers arrested and or cited 130 suspects into court on 167 different counts. The majority of this was traffic counts. Twinsburg officers issued 217 written warnings and 6 parking citations, and officers investigated 52 traffic crashes, of which 7 were injury crashes, 13 were on private property, and none were fatal. This has been a relatively historic and exciting past 7 days for the police department. Last Thursday we promoted a lieutenant. We'll be promoting another lieutenant tomorrow, and 2 sergeants, one Thursday and Friday. Those officers will come before you to take a ceremonial oath of office on May 13th during Police Memorial Week. Very excited about the changes in the department and setting the table for the next decade or so in the Twinsburg Police Department. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Anybody else? Let's see. Chris?
Good evening, Council. The Service Department crews through the end of March have responded to 40 snow and ice events and applied a total of 10,900 tons of salt. Normally at this time, we're at probably 30 to 32 events. So it's been a pretty tough winter, been a long winter. And related to that are the potholes that we have out there. They have patched 5,250 potholes. That's probably double what we normally do. The roads really took a beating this year. We're going to continue to patch those. I'm sure Amy's going to have some work to do after this. It's pretty exciting out there. There's a lot going on. On the wastewater side, the microturbine is back up and running, producing electricity. We had a compressor that went out on that. We had a company come in and replace that compressor, but we had our maintenance people doing some of the work along with them, and we kind of found out through the process that a lot of that work we can do in-house, so it will save quite a bit of money in the future, because the compressor is a wear item that will need to be replaced in the future. So we've got good maintenance people in line there, and they will be able to do that work. Branch chipping started for the service department. That started yesterday, and looks like it's pretty light out there, so they should make their way through the route pretty quickly. Again, like last year, we're doing that monthly. For a couple years, we were doing it every other month, but we've decided to go back to a monthly pickup, and that will go through October. Tree pruning, we had really good success with that. With the crew, to date, we've pruned 752 trees, which is quite a bit more than we normally get through. We sent 4 of our employees to training for that, so they really know what they're doing, and the guys have really taken a liking to that program. So we're probably going to send more employees out, send more crews out, and there's a lot of trees out there for us to prune. So the better we can keep up with that, the better for sight lines and traffic and what have you. The storm system cleaning that we always do, we've started that. Street sweeping is going to begin in the near future here. The mechanics are readying that equipment. And litter. We've gone through the city one complete time with litter pickup, and this year's pretty heavy with the wind, so we'll probably be back out there pretty quick. So a lot of the seasonal stuff going on. All the some of the spring and summer is getting underway. So pretty busy right now for us. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Karen, you have a report? Okay.
A lot today. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
In the month of March, the Twinsburg Fire Department responded to 173 calls for service. 40 of those were for fire-related incidents, 12 were for rescue-related incidents, and 121 were for EMS incidents. We received mutual aid, or I'm sorry, we gave mutual aid on 2 occasions, received mutual aid on 5 occasions. Our call totals year to date are 548. That's just a couple percentages points behind where we were this point last year. For inspections, the Fire Prevention Bureau completed 98 inspections in the month of March, and they have 10 that are past due, and they completed 1 fire education session as well. And on the training side, our department completed 47 different training evolutions, totaling 321 hours of training that the department underwent through the course of the month. We also are looking at some changes in personnel at the fire department, anticipating a retirement of one of our lieutenants at the end of May. With the help of civil service, we have held a entrance exam. 47 people sat for that test. We are anticipating the results of that being certified on Thursday, and we'll proceed with hiring process for a new firefighter to replace the firefighter in the ranks, as one of our firefighters will be promoted to lieutenant after a promotional process that will start in May. So we're just trying to get refill the ranks after the retirement. That's my report for this evening.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's great to be back.
Welcome back.
There hasn't been an HR report for a while, so I thought I'd step up and bring you up to speed on what's been going on in this department. These first couple of weeks, I've just been obviously getting refamiliarized with everything from union contracts and new software and all the staff and all the different activities that are going on and all the current HR issues. I would like to take this time to thank Dave Maestros and Shannon for covering the bases in the HR department over the last few months. They've done a great job. A good example is the agreement that Dave negotiated with getting those confidential employees out of the union in exchange for a couple other things, so that was a good job. We currently have 166 full-time employees, 110 part-time employees, and 28 seasonals to date. Obviously, a lot more seasonals are in the pipeline. We're currently well into that process for our summer hiring. One of my first priorities has been to meet with our vendors and our labor consultant to review the current status of everything from our workers' comp claims to our labor contracts. I met with TMC, our benefits brokers, and they brought me up to speed on the city's current benefit plans. We're happy to see that 32 employees have enrolled in our high-deductible HSA plan for 2014, so hopefully we'll start seeing some savings before too much longer. We should have some numbers to report. in June, I'll be meeting with the TPA again to go over some of that, so we should be able to see how we're doing. I met with CareWorks, the TPA for workers' comp. Very pleased to learn that all our we don't have any current horrible claims out there. Everything seems to be under control. Our claims experience has been low, and we're in good shape for workers' comp. Negotiations with the police department are progressing, and then obviously the sergeants and dispatch and the Teamster contracts will be negotiated later this year. We're well into hiring the seasonal staff, as I said, for Parks and Rec, the golf course, the pool. On Wednesday, April 30th, and Thursday, May 1st, we're going to be having an orientation for those seasonal employees. And then, as the chiefs have reported, we've had several promotions in the police and fire department, which has resulted in there being one full-time opening in each department. The police will be adding a new officer from an already certified list, and then we're in the process of certifying that new test for the fire department. I think we had about 47 took the test, something like 37 have moved on. They've passed the test and passed some of the physical requirements. So once the civil service certifies that test, we'll be able to take a closer look at the top of the list and get into that hiring process. The IT staff has been working industriously on upgrades on our network and our website. Mark has been working hard with our vendors on developing content for the new site, which should be up and running by mid-July. And then Don has taken the lead on the network side with servers and switches and those kinds of things that are going in all over the place, all over the city. We met with AtNet Plus, which is our outside vendor that is assisting with this big project. But everything's moving along. Everything seems to be on track. We also are going to be implementing a new HRIS system that was purchased before my time, so I'm anxious to get that up and going. There's going to be newer versions of Windows and Microsoft Office rolled out to various PCs, so there's a lot going on in IT. I did want to mention for anybody who's listening that we have a couple of sort of new seasonal positions in the service department this year. They're adding 2 gardening assistants. And these will be seasonal employees, but they'll be something other than just an entry-level employee. We want somebody who knows about the care and feeding of flowers and flower beds and landscape features, and will be assisting with drainage and fertilizing and those kinds of things. So somebody who's knowledgeable on those, and if anybody is interested, they should go to the website and you can apply there. Wednesday, tomorrow, is our quarterly employee appreciation luncheon at the community center. So I'm looking forward to meeting everybody that I haven't met already, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Colette. Yes. Okay, anybody else?
Jim?
No, Jim, no report?
Finance?
Karen? All right.
Again. I just wanted to let you know that we did receive our first advance distribution for our city income tax. We are down by 8%, and as I mentioned before, that we anticipated that if reflective the following quarters coming up, that we should show a decline a little bit. Hopefully that we will experience we'll see some growth, but we're going to start to see a decline going in that area. So right now, we have collected in our advance 1.6 million, and the difference between that as opposed to last year, being that 8% down, $137,000. But again, that's just the first advance distribution. Final numbers will be coming, and I'll give a full report on the collections of that. I mentioned at the caucus meeting that we are currently being audited as our standard practice of being audited every single year. One of the suggestions and recommendations by Melissa, which is one of the state auditors, is that although it's not a requirement, nor is it in the Ohio Revised Code to do so, it was just a recommendation, and I don't have a problem with it. I think it's actually a good idea to implement it, and that is to bring before, when you do receive your financial statements every month, that you just merely either pass it or do a motion, or in legislative form. And as discussed in the caucus meeting, we've decided that we'll do a legislative form to have it isolated, just to say that you have received it and that it's been adopted. So, and also, I just wanted to bring you up to speed on what's going on with House Bill 5. We haven't talked about that in a while, so I just wanted to bring you up to date. Currently, it is still in existence, still in discussion, and that is, for those who don't know, that's dealing with the uniformity of the income tax collections. Although they definitely decided not to try to collect it in-house on the state level, but what they did do is they are going through different areas, and 4 main topics that now are left in regarding to the House Bill 5, and that is the occasional entree entrance, that is contractors that come in and out of the city that does work, that are here less than 30 days, how to address that. The other one is offsetting the losses, which is the proponents supporting the language of provisions eliminating the revenue loss and the minimum best, and the net operating loss. That's where you'll see that could potentially lose money in that area. What they projected for the city of Twinsburg was estimated between $200,000 and $500,000. But again, that is not a final figure until we actually realize what this impact of the House Bill 5 will. Just wanted to keep you updated. And the last one was number 4 is the treatment of the SERPs. They're going to have to deal with that in the court, so that's why that's something that really can't be discussed. It has to be legally discussed in that area. So that's all I have to say regarding the House Bill 5, but I will keep you updated as I learn more. They definitely are keeping us updated in the mayor's and city meetings and the finance committee and regional income tax agency. They're very active and actively engaged in this proposed change. Any questions? No. And that's all I have to report.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have anything? Any other? All right. Department heads. All right. I guess we'll move on. Go ahead and move on to legislation then. We have Resolution 28, 2014. Shannon?
A resolution authorizing the transfer of service weapon serial number 55B006432 to retired Police Lieutenant Michael Nakata as an honorarium for his many years of service with the City of Twinsburg.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 28, 2014. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion was made by me and seconded by Mr. Scafidi. Any discussion? Congratulations to Lieutenant, do I say Nakata?
Nakata.
Nakata, okay. And I'd like to thank him for his service. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 28, 2014 passes by a 6-0 vote. Next, we have Ordinance 29, 2014.
An ordinance authorizing the purchase of 2 vehicles through Lebanon Ford 770 Columbus Avenue, Lebanon, Ohio, for the use of the police department and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules on Ordinance 29, 2014, place it on its 3rd and final reading, and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Roden. Any further discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
No.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Okay, the emergency clause passes 5-1. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 29, 2014 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Sorese. Okay, any discussion?
These are 2 replacement vehicles for the police department. I know there was discussion at caucus regarding these 2 vehicles and the timing of the legislation with the emergency. However, the chief did indicate that these are probably 2 months out from ordering. So that's why it's on an emergency tonight, and it was part of his, capital request. So,
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Okay, Ordinance 29, 2014 passes by a 6-0 vote. Next, we have Ordinance 30, 2014. Shannon?
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for various special revenue accounts as established in Ordinance 19, 2014, the appropriations ordinance for the City of Twinsburg for the year 2014, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 30, 2014, place it on its third and final reading, and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Sorese. Any discussion? The emergency, okay. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Okay, emergency clause passes 6-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 30, 2019. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I made the motion. Mr. Sorese seconded. Any further discussion here on the emergency? This has to do with the transferring money to finish the lobby and the restrooms. And okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 30, 2014 passes by a 6-0 vote as an emergency. Next, we have ordinance 31, 2014.
An ordinance amending the current year appropriations for various general revenue accounts as established in Ordinance 19, 2014, the appropriation ordinance for the City of Twinsburg for the year 2014.
Okay, this stands on its first reading. Next, we have Resolution 32, 2014. Shannon?
A resolution authorizing the approval and adoption of the Summit County Hazard Mitigation Plan for the Executive's Department of Law, Insurance and Risk Management, Division of Public Safety, and Emergency Management Agency.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 32, 2014. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Roden. Any discussion? Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury?
Okay, Resolution 32, 2014 passes by a 6-0 vote. Next, we have Ordinance 33, 2014.
An-
Shannon?
An ordinance accepting the bid of Param Electric Incorporated, 6882 Ridge Road, Wadsworth, Ohio, 44281, for the traffic signal improvements at Ravenna Road and Twin Hills Parkway, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules on Ordinance 33, 2014, place it on its third and final reading, and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Sorese. Ms. Moore explained that in order for the project to be completed by the beginning of the school year, we would need to get started on this as soon as possible. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Okay, emergency clause passes 6-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt Ordinance 33, 2014 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Yates. Any further discussion?
No. Again, this is the light signal that's going to be put up at Ravenna Road and Twin Hills. This has been talked about for a couple years. The total cost of the project is $145,525.
Thank you. Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Okay, Ordinance 33, 2014 passes by a 6-0 vote as an emergency. Next, we have Ordinance 32, 2014. Shannon?
An ordinance accepting the bid of Mara Services Incorporated, 700 East 73rd Street, Cleveland, Ohio, 44103, for the citywide sidewalk program, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I apologize. That was Ordinance 34. I read the wrong number. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules on Ordinance 34, 2014, and place it on its third and final reading and declare it an emergency. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Scafidi. This has to do with getting the sidewalk program up and running while the weather's nice. Is there any further discussion on why this is an emergency? Okay, Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Okay, emergency clause passes 6-0. Now I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance 34, 2014 as an emergency. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Sorese. Is there any further discussion? Okay. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance 34, 2014 passes by a 6-0 vote as an emergency. Next, we have ordinance 35, 2014. Shannon?
An ordinance amending salaries, wages, and employment descriptions for certain employees of the city and updating classifications of employees to be known as the 2014 salary ordinance.
Okay, this stands on its first reading. Okay, now we have Resolution 36, 2014. Shannon?
A resolution appointing one member to the Civil Service Commission.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules on Resolution
We need to add a name.
36, 2014. This is regarding the Civil Service Commission. And insert the name. Tim Klafsky. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Let's see, which you, I made the motion, Mr. Scafidi seconded. Any discussion? Are we okay, Shannon?
We're going
Can
to
we
adopt.
do that all, are we,
We're just gonna-
we're gonna make the motion?
We're going to adopt it as an
Adopt
emergency
emergency.
so that he can act.
Do we need as a
tomorrow.
motion to add him first?
Well,
Or can
I
it all
thought
be
we
one?
had two. I mean, I thought we had prepared in each event. Are we adding the name?
We did
We're
it.
going to add the name, yeah. That's what we're voting on right now, is adding the name.
Just adding the name,
Mhm.
not adopting the resolution and changing it to an emergency? What are we voting on?
Well, I think all three. There was a motion to add the name of Tim Klasky, and to read it and adopt it as an emergency resolution.
All
So-
as one?
We don't need a separate motion for that.
Well, make the motion, if you would, make the motion, approve the motion to add the name. And then you can do it as an emergency resolution since it's a resolution.
So two?
Two.
Okay.
Right.
So,
So I think you made the motion to adopt the name. If we could just have a second on the motion to add the name.
okay. All right, so we're going to add the name.
Who
Okay.
seconded that?
That was Mr. Scafidi.
Okay.
Okay. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes?
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yep.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Okay, now I'd like to make a motion to adopt as an emergency Resolution 36, 2014.
I'll second.
Okay, I made the motion. Mr. Sorese seconded. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Okay, Resolution 36, 2014 passes by a 6-0 vote. That is all the legislation we have for tonight. Unfinished business, new business, miscellaneous. Mr. McDermott, you have nothing? Mr. Sorese?
Nothing?
Okay. I'd just like to thank, I would like to thank Steve Noble again for coming and presenting. I really appreciate everything you're doing for this community. And that's all I have. Mr. Scafidi?
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Mr. Roden?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Mr. Yates?
Nothing, just I wish everyone a happy Easter and enjoy the holiday. That's it.
Very nice. Mr. Maestros?
I just want to mention, Mr. Sorese mentioned earlier about the Charter Review Commission, and I think they probably are looking at one, maybe two meetings left, but they're having a pretty good discussion about something that might be of interest to council. If 2 weeks from tonight, or 2 weeks from yesterday, which would be what, the 21st is their next meeting, regarding the mayoral primary and moving that date or discussing the movement of that date maybe to September or to a date other than May. And I think, I mean, Mr. Yates was there last night, Mr. Sorese was there, and if you have some interest in it, I mean, it's a great commission, a great group of people you have, but they're having a very good debate on to do anything with that one section of the charter. So if council has any input, or if you just want to have your input where you want to send an email, I'll get it to me. I'll be there. You can certainly get it to me or Mr. Sorese, and we'll get it to them because they would be interested to hear more of the input from council.
Okay.
Yeah, there was
And I don't think, I'm sorry, Mr. I'm not sure that we really changed anything else from council, other than there was some discussion concerning the summer recess, which I think we're going to make it more general than more specific on that. But other than that, I think they stayed away from the council, other than this debate they're having, and I'm not sure what direction they'll go.
When is the next meeting again?
The 21st? Is that right,
Yes.
Gary? Okay.
So, yeah, there was some really good dialogue regarding some potential changes to the primary and then our break and some different things. So if you're able to attend, they welcome our responses, because there's just certain things that, while they're trying to make decisions on this, they're just maybe not aware of, and so it was, it's good for councilmen to be there to help, share some insight on some things.
Great.
Thank you.
Anything else? That's it. Okay, Shannon?
Nothing this evening.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Mr. Fury from tonight's council meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. McDermott. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yep.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Okay, and I believe with no further business, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay. I made the motion. It was seconded by Mr. Mr. Scafidi. Scafuri. It's a late meeting. Shannon, please call the roll.
Mrs. Stoffer?
Yes.
Mr. Scafidi?
Yes.
Mr. Roden?
Yes.
Mr. Sorese?
Yes.
Mr. Fury? Mr. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Yates?
Yes.
Okay, meeting's adjourned.
That was a new one.
You like that?
Okay.
I'm Mr. Fury.
Fury, I like that.
Mr. Scafidi.
Mr. Scafuri.
I've been called a lot of things.
I held it because I forgot you were on the paper. He just came in last week, so, nice presentation. He came in last week, so.